In August of 1966, a young boy wandered up the steep slopes of Vintém Hill in Niterói, Brazil. He wasn't searching for anything unusual. He was just trying to find a good spot to fly his kite. But what he stumbled upon that afternoon would spark one of the strangest mysteries in modern history. A mystery that still has investigators, journalists, and researchers arguing almost 60 years later. Lying side by side in the tall grass were the bodies of two men. They were neatly dressed in formal suits, each wearing a waterproof raincoat. And over their eyes, they had bizarre handmade lead masks. The kind of masks that looked like something out of a science fiction film. Smooth pieces of metal cut into eye shield shapes designed to block out light completely. There were no signs of violence, no blood, no struggle. Just two bodies, perfectly placed as if the men had calmly laid down to rest and never got back up. When police climbed the hill the next day, what they found only deepened the mystery. Next to the bodies were two items, an empty water bottle and a small packet containing two damp towels. But the most chilling object was a single notebook. Inside, a strange message written in Portuguese. 1630, be at the specified location. 1830, ingest capsules. After the effect, protect metals. Await signal. Mask. What capsules? What effect? And what signal were they expecting? The two men were soon identified as Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana, electronics technicians from the city of Campos dos Goitacazes, a good distance away from Niterói. To their families, they were quiet, normal men who spent most of their time repairing radios and tinkering with circuits. Nothing about them suggested they were involved in anything dangerous. On August 17th, 3 days before their bodies were found, they told their families they were taking a short trip to buy electronic equipment. They didn't say where they were going or how long they would be gone. They simply left their homes, boarded a bus, and disappeared into the city. Hours later, witnesses confirmed that the two men did arrive in Niterói. They bought 2 waterproof raincoats. They also purchased a bottle of water from a small bar. The waitress who served them remembered something odd. One of the men, Miguel, seemed extremely anxious. His hands were shaking, and he kept checking his watch as if he was following a strict timeline. That was the last confirmed sighting of the pair alive. From the bar, investigators believe they made their way directly to Vintém Hill. Whether they walked, took a taxi, or were brought there by someone else, no one knows. But at some point that afternoon, they climbed the hill, put on their lead masks, laid down, and died. The police found no weapons, no injuries, no evidence of struggle. Nothing disturbed around their bodies. And when the autopsy was finally done, weeks later, the internal organs had decomposed too badly to test for toxins. No one could determine whether the men had been poisoned, overdosed, or simply died of natural causes. The cause of death was officially listed as undetermined. With no physical answers, investigators turned to the men's personal lives. That's when things started to take a stranger, almost surreal turn. According to friends and coworkers, Manuel and Miguel were part of a small group of scientific spiritualists. This wasn't a typical religious group. Members believed they could contact spirits and extraterrestrial beings using electronics, radios, antennas, and homemade devices. Some even claimed they had experienced bright flashes of light, visions, or messages from unknown entities. Colleagues also claimed the lead masks were not new. In fact, the men had reportedly made several masks before and had performed experiments involving intense spiritual or extraterrestrial communication. These experiments often included bright light, which the masks were supposedly designed to block. They believed that whatever they were contacting could produce blinding flashes. This lined up disturbingly well with the cryptic notebook message found at the scene. The instructions were not for killing. They were instructions for preparation. 1630, be at the specified location. 1830, ingest capsules. After the effect, protect metals. Await signal. Mask. Were they waiting for some kind of contact? A communication? A light? A supernatural event? One theory suggests they took psychedelic or toxic capsules, expecting to reach a higher state of consciousness, but misjudged the dosage, overdosing on the hilltop. Another version claims they were expecting a literal signal from a UFO or spirit, and that the masks were to protect them from a blinding flash. But even that theory leaves massive holes. For one, why did both men die at exactly the same time? If one overdosed, the other should have had time to react, call for help, crawl away, try to save his friend. But they were found lying down together in peaceful positions, almost perfectly symmetrical. And then there's the question of the towels. Why 2 wet towels? Were they meant to cool their heads during the effect? Or were they part of some ritual? Police found no psychedelic drugs, no empty pill capsules, and no unusual substances near the bodies. Another theory suggests the 2 men were tricked, that someone involved in their spiritual group knew about their beliefs and manipulated them into taking something fatal. If that's true, it means the instructions in the notebook weren't written for their benefit, but as part of a setup. There's also the darker possibility of criminal involvement, that someone promised them a supernatural experience, brought them to the hill, forced or tricked them into ingesting poison, and left them there to die. But again, no physical evidence supports foul play. And then there's the most controversial theory of all. The idea that the men may have genuinely believed they were going to make contact with something non-human. Not necessarily aliens, but something beyond ordinary perception. Their friends firmly stated that the men were obsessed with communication experiments. They believed in the possibility of an intense spiritual encounter, one accompanied by overwhelming light and energy. The lead masks were a way to protect themselves from whatever they expected to meet. But if that's true, what signal were they waiting for? And why did it end in death? To this day, investigators are divided. Some call it a tragic accident involving psychedelics. Others blame a scam or deliberate poisoning. And some, even now, argue that the instructions and the masks indicate something far stranger, something we might never understand. No suspects were ever identified. No cause of death was ever confirmed, and no answers ever came. All we know is that 2 men climbed a hill in 1966, put on lead masks, laid down next to each other, and waited for something that never arrived. The lead masks case remains one of Brazil's most chilling unsolved mysteries. A puzzle made of strange instructions, spiritual experiments, and 2 silent metal masks staring into the unknown. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more mysteries like this, please hit the like button. It really helps a lot. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you never miss any video I upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.